All right, let's dive right into this explainer. We're going to unpack the entire landscape of Oregon charter schools today. If you've ever found yourself wondering, how these schools actually work, the funding mechanics behind them, or what it all means for your family, well, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to sift through the data and the rules to give you a crystal clear understanding of school choice in Oregon.
Here is our quick roadmap for today. We'll cover what are charter schools, 2. Why families choose them, 3. Funding and budget debates, 4. Oversight and public accountability, 5. Equity, access, and fairness, and finally, 6. The bottom line for parents.
Starting off with Section 1, what are charter schools? Let's lay the foundation. So basically, a charter school is a tuition-free public school that operates under a charter, which is essentially a performance contract, right within the state's public education system. The absolutely crucial point I want to make here is that they are entirely public. They're tuition-free, open to students under state law rules, and no, they are not private schools. But instead of following standard one-size-fits-all district rules, they operate under their own very specific contract.
Think of it as a trade. Traditional school districts operate under direct governance, but charter schools, they effectively trade that standard, rigid structure for this performance contract governance. Meaning, they get the freedom to offer a totally unique educational model, but, and this is a big but, they absolutely have to hit the specific performance goals outlined in their agreement if they want to stay open.
Moving on to Section 2, why families choose them. What is the actual appeal?
Why do families actually seek out these alternatives? Well, the reasons are honestly as diverse as the students themselves. Many are drawn to a super specialized academic focus. Think STEM programs, the arts, deep language immersion, or project-based learning. Others might be hunting for a really rigorous college prep model. And a lot of times, families just want smaller class sizes, or maybe different teaching approaches that might just click better with their kids' unique learning style. It's really all about finding a mission or a tighter-knit community that matches your family's values.
But here's one of the most fascinating takeaways from the data. There is literally no single charter school experience in Oregon, because these schools range from super highly structured academic environments to these incredibly creative, community-based experiential learning centers. They are all completely unique. You really can't paint them all with just one brush.
All right, Section 3, funding and budget debates. Let's look at the mechanics of the money. Because they are public schools, they're funded through the broader public education system. And the core mechanic here is pretty straightforward. Public funding generally follows the student. So when a kid moves from a traditional district school to a charter school, the funding literally packs its bags and follows that student to their new school. Sounds super simple on the surface, right? But this exact structure is precisely why charter schools are often right at the center of some massive debates about school finance and resource allocation.
This creates a pretty complex economic tension, and there are totally valid perspectives on both sides here. Supporters argue that funding absolutely should follow families, believing this creates healthy competition and, drives educational innovation. But on the flip side, critics really worry that charter growth strains traditional district budgets. Their big concern is that fixed costs, things like building maintenance or administrative overhead, those stay exactly the same at traditional schools even as enrollment shifts and the funding walks out the door. It can definitely tighten up already limited community funding.
Which brings us to Section 4, oversight and public accountability.
So, if they have all this operational freedom and the money follows the student, who's actually holding them accountable? Well, this introduces the concept of the sponsor. A sponsor is usually a local school district, though sometimes it's another approved public entity that actually authorizes the charter. They're the gatekeepers. They review the academic performance, the financials, legal compliance, the whole shebang. So they aren't just running wild without oversight. If a charter school fails to meet its mission, that sponsor can challenge its renewal or literally shut it down entirely.
It really is a constant balancing act. They get the flexibility to design unique curriculums, play around with scheduling, try out brand new instructional methods, and utilize different staffing models. But they have a strict responsibility to meet state academic standards, comply with public reporting, and strongly align with their charter agreement. Basically, flexibility is the main draw, but responsibility is the price of admission.
Let's zoom out for Section 5, equity, access, and fairness, the big picture.
Because they're public, they're absolutely expected to be open to everyone. But let's be real, access barriers still pop up in practice. We're talking about real-world hurdles like transportation limitations, super complex application procedures, or just a simple lack of family awareness that these options even exist.
What this means in reality is that families who happen to have more time, resources, or just sheer navigational savvy often find it way easier to utilize these choices. The doors are open, sure, but the path to get there isn't always flat.
And that highlights a really core tension. To quote directly from the source material, a charter school can only be a true public option if students from different backgrounds can realistically access it and succeed there. Equity isn't just some buzzword here. It is central to the very definition of a public school. We have to ensure high standards aren't just reserved for those who can easily jump over logistical hurdles.
All right, wrapping things up with Section 6, the bottom line for parents. Your main takeaway.
The absolute biggest takeaway here is this. You have to look beyond the marketing materials. A school that looks absolutely perfect on a glossy flyer or a beautifully designed website, it might not actually fit your day-to-day life. Because there's no universal charter experience, you have to evaluate every single one individually. Treat them as unique public schools with their own specific strengths, limitations, and accountability records.
Before you even think about enrolling, here is a practical checklist for you. First, review their mission and see how it actually translates to daily instruction. Second, check their academic results over time. Please don't just look at one good year. Third, ask very specifically about special ed and English learner services. How do they actually support struggling students? Fourth, understand exactly how their teachers are hired, trained, and evaluated. And fifth, confirm the boring but honestly vital details: transportation, discipline, and attendance policies. Interrogate the data, ask the hard questions, and make sure the logistics truly work for your family's reality.
As we close out this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought-provoking question. As school choice continues to evolve in Oregon, maybe the most useful question isn't just as simple, are charter schools good or bad? Instead, we should be asking, which students do they serve well, and how do they fit into Oregon's broader commitment to public education? By focusing on those deeper questions, we can make sure we're making the absolute best, most informed decisions to help all Oregon students learn, grow, and thrive.